week on NHRA Today. Racers make wishes come true for some special kids, while Texas thunders to the roar of Division 4. A fast fact on Top Fuel air pressure vent tubes, and the gallery that specializes in performance art. From Rockingham Dragway, home of the 5th annual Winston Invitational, these stories and more on this edition of NHRA Today. With the first 4 events of the 1993 season firmly in the record books, drag racing fans have enjoyed a season punctuated by stunning times and speeds in all the professional classes. And there have been some highly dramatic moments as well, as drivers flirt with the edge of the performance envelope. Now comes time for NHRA to take its annual spring break at Rockingham Dragway and the 5th running of the Winston Invitational. Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of NHRA Today. I'm Steve Evans, and since it is break time, today we're going to take time to see how the season has progressed to this point. Now this show is just the kickoff for a weekend full of drag racing excitement, as tomorrow morning at 10:30 Eastern Time, we will have live coverage of the first round of Pro Stock eliminations. Then at 5 Eastern Time, we'll bring you the finals in all 3 professional classes. You don't want to miss a minute of it, because it's bound to be a hot time at the Old Rock. And speaking of hot, it's time to find out what is. NCR, a subsidiary of AT&T, is bringing some new computer technology to Larry Minor Motorsports and the McDonald's team. Lee Beard, a couple of different applications you're trying.
Well, basically what we're trying to do is really improve the efficiency of our team. McCullough here, he's keeping track of the business end of it. How many drums of nitro we're burning, how many sets of tires we're using, right on down to things like our hotel rooming list. My particular machine, it's performance-minded. I'm using it to access the data off of the race car. And then we have an excellent communication system with this machine. I can have one setting on my desk in Indianapolis, one setting on Minor's desk in California, and through the AT&T network, we can have the identical thing on both screens.
Fascinating. And you know, this is not the only fast food fueler making news. Last weekend at the Texas Motorplex, the Taco Bell Jack Clark Motorsports team was busy getting ready for their premiere at the Fram Southern Nationals. At the wheel of Clark's dragster in Texas was John Andretti, who's been working on getting his Top Fuel license. But there's still no official word from Clark as to who will be the driver in Atlanta. And that's what's hot. So far in 1993, Top Fuel has been rather topsy-turvy, as no single driver has stepped forward to dominate. By far, the quickest car of the young season is Corey McClanathan's Mac Attack entry, which has been the low qualifier at 3 of 4 events. But a shining of red lights has plagued Corey, and despite the joking nature of the decal on the side of his cockpit, lost races and lost prize money may put the unsponsored team on the trailer. One driver running very quickly and not making mistakes is Eddie Hill, who has been in top form, winning at Phoenix and Gainesville. Eddie is just a few points behind fellow veteran Ed McCullough at the top of the Winston standings. And the ace owes his current #1 position to consistency as much as outright speed. Struggling at the moment with low marks are Joe Amato, who has not been beyond the 2nd round since winning the Winter Nationals, and Kenny Bernstein, who has littered the racetrack with broken parts in each of the 4 races. Now those racers are under extreme pressure, and as Frank Hawley now tells us, there are many ways a certain kind of pressure can work to a racer's advantage.
Today's Top Fuel dragsters have fuel pumps on them that can pump more than 50 gallons of nitromethane a minute. A Top Fuel dragster like this one will have about a 15-gallon fuel tank and uses almost all of it to make a 4-second run. The problem develops as the car nears the finish line. The acceleration has dropped to less than 1 G, so the G-forces are not pushing the fuel back to the engine. There's only a couple gallons of fuel left in this tank, and it's possible for those massive pumps to actually suck an air bubble right through that standing fuel. The crew chiefs say that they've actually seen drops in fuel pressure as the car nears the finish line, and that's not good. What some of the teams have done to combat this problem is this. They run the vent line right out the nose of the car directly into the 300-mile-per-hour wind. That air is forced into this tank, which is pressurized, and back into the main fuel tank. The idea being that that air pressure in the fuel tank is going to help push that fuel back down towards the engine. That should cut down on the drops in fuel pressure or the lane spots and hopefully give them more consistent performance.
Hang in there. When we come back to Rockingham, we'll turn our attention to pro stock, and you'll meet some kids who have had their drag racing dreams come true. Welcome back to the Winston Invitational. The reigning Winston champion sits atop the 1993 standings, courtesy of wins at Pomona and Gainesville, as well as the bundle of bonus points for a perfect string of low ETs and a national record. The only other driver to approach WJ's performance has been Bob Glidden. But despite a win in Houston, the 10-time Winston champion is still playing a catch-up game. The remaining winner this year has been Mark Bowick, who did the trick at Phoenix thanks to consistency rather than outright speed. I'd bet the pro stock field is wishing for something, anything, to slow the Johnson juggernaut. And you know what? Wishes can come true at a drag race. We all have dreams. We all make wishes. And most of us spend our lifetime pursuing those desires. But for a child afflicted with a tragic, life-threatening illness, that time may be cut short, and often it is filled with countless hours in hospitals enduring surgery, tests, and pain. But we discovered 4 very special kids who, through the Make-A-Wish Foundation and NHRA, found an end to the pain, at least for a day.
It was hard because when I had my surgery, I had to quit. I was in a lot of sports and stuff, and I can't do them anymore. I graduated last year, '92, and I held off going to college till my hair grew back. And then my hair grew back, and now I'm going to college here, so.
Aaron was a guest at the Chief Auto Parts Winter Nationals and got some hands-on experience with crew chief Ron Swearingen and top fuel pilot Tommy Johnson Jr.
I've always loved cars. There's just something about cars and speed, so I've always loved it.
At the same event, Alan de Guzman and Randy Toint took it one step further and actually drove in the junior dragster class.
Once I called Make-A-Wish, they told me that they would give me anything I wanted, and I really wanted to go to Florida, and for some reason they just put me here too. They just invited me to come and do this. My mom came home from work and she just said, "Alan, you're gonna drive in one of those dragsters in the fair," and that's it.
The joy and excitement even spills over to the families of these kids who share in an experience much different than that of a hospital or treatment center.
It's just like a blur, you know? You just push the acceleration and then you just go fast. Woohoo! I feel alive!
In Houston, we met Brian Oshbacher, who enlisted the help of the Make-A-Wish Foundation to obtain donations and contributions to fulfill his dream of converting his family's 1976 Dodge Dart into an 11-second bracket car.
Once you get involved, it's kind of hard to let go, and the rewards are just unbelievable. There's no way to describe to anybody how it feels to see a child's wish be completed.
Originally, we just wanted a car to play with on the weekends, and then we got Conrad started building the engine up bigger and stronger, and so now we're thinking on racing it on the weekends, and maybe if we're lucky, keeping it street legal to go driving around on the Saturday nights and stuff. It really is neat to see how generous everyone is when it comes to something as big a project as this, It's just, I don't know, it's pretty neat.
Brian's early racing experience came from remote control cars, something he is very successful at.
And just from there, it kind of grew into the bigger cars. And I guess that's where it's at right now. I'm interested in the big cars.
And as guest of pro stock racer Ron Ayres at the Slick 50 Nationals, Brian and his family got the thrill of a lifetime.
I've been a big race fan for drag racing for several years now. And it was really neat getting to meet all the racers and stuff.
And Brian may have even been the inspiration Ron needed to win his first national event.
It was absolutely incredible. Being on the track, seeing everything up close, and meeting a bunch of different drivers, it was just amazing. I really enjoyed it.
Recently, at the Gator Nationals, Ronnie Swearingen doubled up and called the tuning shots on 2 of the fastest cars in the world. First, Top Fuel's Tommy Johnson Jr. ran a career-best 2:98 and made it to the semifinal round with Ronnie's help. Then, Freddie Neely rode Swearengton's expertise to a new funny car speed record of 295, while also reaching the Final Four.
We had a very good weekend with both cars. The Tommy Johnson car went 298, which is pushing the threshold of 300, and we also broke a barrier with the funny car at 295, which I guess now we can call we're pushing 300 with funny cars. And hopefully we've opened some eyes and some doors.
By far, the #1 performer in funny car has been this piece of equipment, the fire bottle. It has been called into action quite often. It began at Pomona with Flash Gordon Mineo living up to his name. And shortly thereafter, Mark Oswald put down a scorcher of a run in the In-N-Out Burger car. On to Phoenix, where first Whit Bazemore turned his fast orange body into flaming red. And then Al Hoffman proceeded to torch the Blower Drive Services Daytona on a ride into the Arizona desert. Houston found Kenji Okazaki getting his first taste of Fuel 2 flambe, while Gordon Mineo staged a repeat of his Pomona pyrotechnics and destroyed yet another body. While all these cars were burning down the track, John Force was burning it up to the tune of 3 wins to go along with a new national record that sees John knocking on the door of the first ever 4-second flopper run. Struggling right now to reach down into the 5 teams is Cruz Pedregon, who despite a win in Phoenix is not showing the potential to take a repeat Winston crown. All Cruz and the rest of the funny car contingent need to catch up with Force is maybe a little time. And time is the key to this week's report from Bob Fry.
I don't know why, but this Division IV Winston Drag Racing Series event in Hallsville, Texas has me thinking back to my early days.
You know, when I was a kid, I used to love those old science fiction movies. You know, the ones where they take the guy and put him in a device and transport him back in time. But as I grew up, I became a little bit older and a little bit wiser. And I used to think about it. Hey, let's take a look at this thing rationally. There really can't be anything like a time machine.
Don't know exactly how we came up with it. We were running for time naturally, and it is a machine, so we just put together the time machine, which is not totally original, but it worked for us and has since then.
Okay, let's see if this time thing really works. Take us back to some of Jackie's first race cars.
That particular car I built from scratch out of lumber at the shop, and early funny car, I guess, for us, about in '63. The first car we owned was the car that Darrell Gwynn got his license in, the Baby Huey car, Jerry Gwynn's. And from there, the second car we owned, we bought from Ken Vinny. It was the Vinny's Red Rocket. And then, of course, the car we have now from the Austins.
Jackie Stidham has been driving the time machine since '82, while his brother, Ronnie, has been supplying the engine tuning expertise. That combination has meant speed and problems for the rest of their Division IV rivals. Now, the last 2 seasons, the Stidhams have nailed down first and second in divisional points, and they picked up their first national win at the Chief Nationals back in '91.
One of the highlights of my career, I guess, to win our first national event. And we were #1 qualifier and kept the car in the 590s all weekend. It was just a great feeling to be able to repeat and run like we did to win the race.
This race at Hallsville, Jackie moved into the finals again, where he took on the Dreamweaver of John Weaver in the near lanes. Once the cars traveled through the quarter-mile quantum leap, Weaver had the second win of his career.
It feels pretty good. We had little problems last year, and we burned up a couple cars last year, and we're trying to get everything all squared away, and it's coming around real good, and we're real happy.
Now here are the rest of the winners from Division IV.
You know, the more I think about it, the more I really don't believe there are any such things as time machines. I mean, if there were, they could show you what I looked like when I was in high school. And when I was 5. And when I was 2. Nah, I don't think those time machines really exist. For NHRA Today, and hopefully tomorrow, I'm Bob Fry.
During the Gator Nationals, many NHRA racers and dignitaries attended the 3rd annual International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremonies at the Gainesville Hilton. The gala was complete with memorabilia of this year's inductees in the hotel lobby and historic videos during the presentations. The Herbert family had 2 members inducted. Chet and Doris Herbert were both honored. Top Fuel racer Doug Herbert accepted the Hall of Fame plaque for his aunt, while his father accepted on his own behalf. This is a special evening for the Herbert family.
Yeah, this is pretty good. We're taking home all the awards. That's great.
Now, here is a complete list of the 1993 members of the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. The 10 inductees came from various backgrounds of the sport and included some real drag racing legends. NHRA Today will devote a full half-hour show to the ceremony in the coming week. Since the Winston Invitational is a non-points event, the big lure here is the sizable purse and big qualifying bonuses. But don't think that greenbacks and pots of gold are the only colors drag racers are interested in. Here's Dave McClellan to tell us all about automotive art.
Through the decades, Kenny Youngblood has established himself as one of the premier designers of race car paint schemes. And his style and creativity has placed him in a class all by himself.
I've always had this interest in drag cars. The first drag race I went to back in St. Gabriel Drag Strip in the 50s. Just fell in love with the machinery, and then later got to know the people. I'd go down and hang on the fence at Lions and watch Don Perdome and Tommy Kuhn and those guys race, and then was fortunate enough later to do work for them and have them as clients and friends, and it's been a wonderful association with drag racing over the years.
Kenny's work has expanded to include drawings, lithographs, and paintings, and recently he opened the Youngblood Motorsports Gallery in Orange, California, where his collection and that of several other artists is on display.
It's unique because it may be one of the few motorsports-only galleries in the country and possibly the only one that's hot rod oriented. It's not only a gallery, but it's sort of like a museum because there's old pieces and new pieces, and it really kind of tells the story of drag racing, a lot of these pieces.
Well, hey, since we're here, why don't we take a look around?
This is a piece by Dave Peters here. He just completed commemorating Kenny Bernstein's 300-mile-an-hour run called Carved in Stone, as we see here. Came out really great. This close-up of Kenny probably has more Bud logos per square inch than any picture ever taken. Beautiful piece by Dave Peters, who also does graphic paint schemes. Didn't do this one, Dave, I did. That's right. This is Steve Stanford's work. Fabulous artist, pretty much self-taught. He's one of my heroes. He's beautiful. He's concentrating on the custom car scene here.
I noticed that with the resurgence of automotive art, there's been a lot of emphasis on performance-type cars, but I like cars with classy appearance. I like line, shape, and form. I mean, if they can look at that art form through my eyes, I think they would develop a renewed appreciation, for that type of automobile.
These pieces are by John Jaduga, and anybody that reads National Dragster has seen his work. John's here with us, and these are some of the press kits that he did over the years for Bill Jenkins. I remember, John, that you used to have Grumpy actually pose for these.
Right at Pomona there on the starting line.
I think took them.
Get the reference material that I needed.
All right.
Well, this is evidently the most popular thing that Marissa ever had for sale, this particular poster. And what I've been told, I don't know. I never got any royalty of them, so I don't know about that part. But, oh, it was really good. I know. I always had a lot of requests for it. And it's... I don't know what the Jaduga and Youngblood scam on this thing was to begin with, so somebody can tell me about that later on. But it's been a while, though, hasn't it?
Kenny is much better on tighter detail than I was. I could think Grumpy, I'd done that for years, and I did the background, but asked Kenny to do the foreground scene with all the little engine parts, and we co-signed it. And I felt this was especially fitting to have this here because we collaborated on it as well.
And it seems all of the automobile enthusiasts in attendance expressed the same sentiment.
It's really nice to come to the studio and see what he's done. It's a real dream come true for Kenny, I'm sure.
It's nice to be able to walk through a gallery and see all these works and have them titled and numbered and yeared. I mean, and that's what really takes you down memory lane.
To see some other automotive artisans at work, join us tomorrow for our live coverage of the Winston Invitational at the times you see on your screen. For Bob Fry and Dave McClellan, I'm Steve Evans. We'll see you then on TNN.
NHRA Today is a presentation of Diamond B Sports.